What's up, guys? This is Sean Otto, owner of Valhalla Training Grounds, and you are listening to the Valhalla Chronicles. This is not the bullshit that you read on social media, and these are not fake stories told by fake people. These are the Chronicles of Life. With us again, we have Chad Brown. Thanks for coming back on.
Glad to be here, man. Again.
Yeah, we got a ton, which I thought was going to happen, but we got a ton of positive feedback from the episode that you and I did. A lot of guys found a lot of value in it. So I was like, yeah, we got to have you back on. Plus, Sal's fucking truck is still down because Sal's failing at life. So he is not ready to fucking come back
Sal
yet.
is challenged at life. He's not failing.
No, he's not failing.
He's challenged.
He's not failing. But so I was like, okay, well, we're going to bring Chad back on sooner than I had planned. So thank you for being here again. Yeah, man.
For sure.
Looking forward to talking to you again. But one of the things, what we were going to talk about today was something you and I had actually talked about previously when we met for lunch, was, a lot of people in their life talk about things that they need to do. They're like, oh man, I really need to start eating better. I need to start working out. I need to fix my marriage. I need to do all these things, but they don't actually do it. Or they think it's too hard, or they tell themselves I can't do it. So what you and I were talking about that day was trying to tell people, what would your life look like if you did these things, if you did eat better, if you did work out, if you did have a morning routine, if you did date your wife or your girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, what would your life look like?
If you pursued that value that's in you, what would your money look like?
If you did, what would your life look like if you didn't just think or speculate? What would your life look like if you did?
That's a big conversation because for most people, what they're lacking is the bridge. There's a bridge between thinking and doing, right? And most people don't know how to walk across that bridge because, like me, for most of my life, I was never shown what that means.
Right.
What does that mean? Well, you go to church, for instance, I'll start with church. You go to church and you see a pastor who gives you a sermon, and the whole thing is about words and thinking. Like you hypothesize, you get words, you get a little motivated, put your hands in the air.
When you're supposed to think about what he's saying.
And then it's like, okay, you leave church. Well, what do I do with what I just heard? I kind of liked it in the moment, and I kind of get it, and I kind of see what the guy's saying, but fuck, man, I got to pay the rent. So let me get back to work. And then life just kind of gets in, and then all of a sudden you go back the following Sunday. And look, I say church first because it's the most obvious for me, but for people, what they don't understand most of the time, and I say this from working with literally thousands of men, is that they don't understand that there's a root source to this frame of not doing and just a frame of thinking. And it starts with you as a kid and your parents.
That's your first relationship, right?
That's the first one.
And I actually read that, and a lot of people don't realize that your parents are the first relationship in your life, and that imprints on you how the rest of the relationships are going to go.
They teach you what love is, right?
Yeah,
By whatever their definition is that they were shown.
Right.
They teach you what love is, what safety is, and so you go to them for love and safety. And then once you get that as an infant, you start going into a toddler and a young kid, what you start seeing is their behaviors, and you start learning from their mindsets. So this is why scarcity mindset gets handed down through generations. Yeah. Because none of our parents were really ever brought into this way of thinking that's starting to sweep across, generations and sweep across socioeconomic boundaries. And people are learning hey, I don't have to believe all this fear shit in the news.
No.
That doesn't have to be true for me.
No, absolutely not.
The fact that there is a president I might like or might not like getting voted in next month may not make a fuck in my life.
Well, and it's actually very funny that you're saying that because, I don't really identify with any political party. I identify with America and what's the best for America. So I've always said, because I've always watched, especially on social media, people get worked up and flustered about who's president. And I've always said, none of these Obama, Bill, whoever, they didn't affect my life. I'm gonna do what I need to do
regardless.
Doesn't matter who the fuck is president.
Right. When you're on your path that way, you're going to do what you do regardless. And look, bread may go up a little bit, eggs may go up a little bit, gas may go up a little bit, whatever. Inside
the cost of living definitely got worse.
Yeah, it definitely did.
That doesn't mean you stop fucking living.
Well, right, because Look, inside of everyone's created in the likeness of God, period. You don't have to believe that. That's just true.
Right.
You are here to create. So bread costs a little more, go fucking produce a little more.
Correct.
Create some value in yourself.
Correct.
And go
Correct.
produce so that's kind of where that mindset comes from. And from our parents at a young age, we're taught limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Like we put ceilings on ourselves.
Yes.
We'll never break through them without changing our mindset.
Right.
And then in order to change your mindset, you have to trust yourself.
Yep.
So you have to get aligned with truth and internal integrity. Well, man, that's a whole process and conversation in yourself. Where do you go to get aligned with that? I go to church because God's truth, and I'm supposed to go to church and hear all these things, but I can't really make it real in my life. So that's this bridge that comes in that I'm talking about, where for most people, they say, in December, man, Thanksgiving's done. Soon as New Year's done, I'm going to jump in the gym and I'm going to get in shape this year.
Bullshit.
90 days, I'm going to look like the P90X poster child, or whatever it is. That's how long it's been since I've been out of the game. Right. I don't even know what.
I don't know.
Whatever the game is right now. Right?
Everything around me is Baja, so I don't know what the fuck fad thing is out there right now.
So, no, but people say this to themselves and they have good intent. That's why they start off with a New Year's resolution, whatever it is. I'm not going to drink, or I'm going to change my eating habits, or I'm going to get into this competition, this fitness competition this summer. And they don't ever do it because they don't have the bridge from thinking and thoughts and doing. They don't understand it. So then they don't even believe their own words that are coming out of their mouth.
Right.
They know they're a liar.
Well, I think part of the problem too is that a New Year's resolution or a competition, a summer competition, whatever, like there's a timeline on that. So they can say, okay, I can do this lifestyle for X amount of time, and then I don't have to anymore. Where what you should be saying, instead of making a resolution, is I'm going to make a life change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choose that my life has been going this way, so I'm not going to do a resolution, which is just going to do this, and I'm going to get back to where I was. I'm going this way now. I'm completely changing paths. We're changing directions.
No matter what.
No matter what. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening is, people will make these claims to themselves and have good intent. Then when they don't fall through, it's just another failed attempt to have transformational impact on their life.
Right.
Because they're doing it externally. Everything's external, right? There's no internal knowing of. Like Jesus says in the Bible, basically, don't promise anything, but just let your yes be yes and your no be no. Like, that's something I've been practicing in the last 6 months. And if you think about that, every time you speak, it becomes very difficult because you start realizing how big of a liar you are.
Right.
Maybe not to everyone about the size fish you caught or whatever, these things, these little things, but internally to yourself.
Right.
It's like, shit, I said I was going to do that today. And today was 3 days ago and I still hadn't done that. Well, then you point that into your marriage, right?
You put it in everything.
Well, yeah, if you point it into your marriage, it's like, what would my life look like if I did what I said? The reason most men have shitty sexual relationships in their marriage is because they're liars?
Yeah. Well, so the last time we talked about women have to feel safe. They have to feel like safety in all different aspects of the relationship.
Yeah.
Well, when you take that away and you take that role, that man is not standing tall in that role as the man in the relationship, there's nothing attractive. There's nothing sexually desirable.
There's nothing for her to submit into.
No, you're a liar. You're weak. You don't follow up with what you say you're going to do.
You're another kid.
You don't show up. You don't take care of shit. None of that is attractive.
And look, that was me for my first marriage.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
I'm like, man, why did I get divorced? Well, because you're a freaking moron who lies to yourself.
Been there.
You're not cheating on your wife. You're lying to yourself that way, and she sees the energy there, and she doesn't trust a word you say.
Right.
You say you're going to cut the grass and fix the window, and then a month goes by, and the grass is long and the window's not fixed.
Right.
Yet you want her to be happy to jump in bed with you because you're a man.
Right.
Right.
No, you can't get shit done.
Can't get shit done. And the whole time she's looking to feel safe and provided for and seen. She wants to know that she's seen. So she's telling you these things that are important to her. You commit to do them. And because you have no internal integrity, she doesn't feel seen and you don't get laid. And then the marriage goes to shit. You know? I mean,
and then the blame go, well, it's your fault. It's like, no, like you have to take ownership as the man, being the head of the household, being the head of the relationship. You have to take ownership of where were your shortcomings and where were your failings that led to this downfall and this, this slow disintegration of what the marriage is supposed to be.
Right, because here's what I've learned and what I figured out with my wife and through the divorce of that first marriage for me. If you want to be a powerful man in a relationship, it has nothing to do with your words. It has everything to do with your actions
Yeah.
in the relationship,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Yeah. So the way that you show up inside of your personal integrity in your marriage, you want your wife to feel safe. Every time that you say A, it's going to be A, hell or high water,
Right.
before you.
No matter what.
No matter what. Every time you say B, it's going to be B, right? And you start practicing that internally with your wife, not really telling her what you're doing. You're practicing your internal integrity. She starts seeing it, and all of a sudden she starts leaning into you, pursuing you sexually, pursuing you during the day with a little cute text.
Right.
All because you decided to quit fucking lying to yourself. And so the way you rise in power in a man, in a marriage, or anywhere else is to dial up the level of responsibility you're willing to take on inside of truth. Mm-hmm. Like truth was brought for one thing to this earth. And Jesus Christ said it. I'm here to divide. I'm not here to bring peace.
Yeah.
I'm here to divide son from father and mother from mother-in-law and wife from husband. And that's what the truth does.
Yeah.
So in order to be powerfully in truth, you have to be willing to risk the things that you don't want to risk. And that's where most people fall short.
Well, and so, but I feel like that's what anything. So just with me in the gym, like I said that this is what we were going to be about, and that I was going to walk the line no matter what. And like there were going to be people that were going to embrace that and feel pulled to it, and there were going to be people that hated it. But no matter, it didn't matter. It didn't matter how much money I lost. It didn't matter who hated it. This is the way it was. I was walking the line. Like,
and dude,
no matter
that level of commitment is rare, right? Yeah. And so if someone can take that level of commitment to truth, to commitment to their word, which is commitment to truth, and apply it to their marriage or the way they make money or the way they steward their physical body, well, then you have a bunch of committed people willing to do whatever it takes,
Right.
Not to get what they want, but to stand in their truth. Because the only way you're going to experience all of who you are is to get rid of the lies.
sure, without a doubt.
You're the most powerful Sean will ever be when you're not everyone else's favorite.
Right.
Like you're doing, right?
Correct.
Like that's the way we're supposed to live life. And then we find someone else who sees you in your powerful way, like you have, or like I have with my wife. And still, look, it's an ongoing battle. I'll tell you this. I flew to Austin for one of the companies I run, and I flew out there last week to go a couple of meetings. And the guy that is our strategic partner there and one of the vice presidents meets me when I flew in and said, look, let's go grab a bite to eat while you're in town. We don't see you much. And okay, cool. Well, I don't drink, right? Because of my bad experience 4 years ago.
Right.
Hey, you want to have a couple drinks? I'm like, you know what? This is social. I never get to see these guys. Drinking's not a problem for me. My problems were a problem back then, not the alcohol, right? So yeah, I'll have a couple of drinks with them. So I had a couple of drinks, go back, leave the restaurant. My wife calls. And when I answer, because she knows me at a soul level, she's like, hey, have you been drinking? I'm like, no, I hadn't been drinking. The semi-buzzed, semi-drunk me, right? Well, she blows up. That's a fucking lie right there. What we're talking about right now is what I battled, and I'm still in a battle, not battle now, but we've kind of course-corrected it. But it was a situation where I didn't want to risk the way she saw me for the truth.
Right.
When I did us no service by telling her, no, I hadn't been drinking, because obviously she knew I had.
Yeah.
And then the truth came out. She didn't call me the rest of the night. And then the next day or whenever it was we talked, the truth comes out. And it's this whole thing of like, why didn't you just tell me?
Right.
And I didn't have an answer for it because I was a pussy in the moment. That's why.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing I've learned is the vulnerability and the honesty, regardless how bad it is, nothing really bad has come about that. So, for example, with Taylor, me and Taylor had this conversation the other day. She's like, I literally don't have a problem coming to you with anything that's on my mind or anything that may be negative, because every time I come to you, no matter how hard or fucked up or whatever it is, she's like, the outcome is always positive.
yeah.
She's like, we can always talk. Like, you always talk to me about it. You don't blow up. You don't get defensive. You're always honest with me, regardless if I want to hear it or not. She's like, so I can come to you with anything, regardless if I feel like the answer is going to hurt my feelings, because I know I'm going to get the truth.
Yeah.
And like, that's fucking powerful to make your partner feel that way.
It's huge because you start to realize that, hey, truth is life's greatest adventure.
Yeah.
If you're willing to walk the path of truth, because it's going to always place you exactly where you need to be in that moment.
Yep.
So had I exercised what I'm preaching right now with my wife 2 Sundays ago, and I would have told her, yeah, look, there's no problem. I'm not running from any problems. I had 2 social drinks with these guys, or 3 social drinks with these guys over a period of 4 hours. If I would have just said that, she would have been upset and mad, but it would have placed her and I still aligned right where we needed to be. Right. So that's where that's where most people fight the battle of truth. And then knowing what I know and how I know it should go, I made it right, told her the truth. And now I had to suffer the consequences of owning the lie.
Yeah.
Which is fucking weakening, right? It's weakening for a man.
Right.
So that's going to take us some time to heal over that. Like, we might not be fighting about it, but her energy around me now is going to be suspicious.
Right.
Because I did that. Right. And so if we're walking in truth, then we're staying away from, even if you're pursuing it and you're not perfect in it, none of us are going to be. We're going to all have moments like I just had last Sunday. Everybody does.
Right.
And the person that says they don't is a fucking liar.
Is a liar, right.
Because we're fucking broken people.
Right.
But the point is that we're trying to move in that direction of truth all the time. And when you do that, you start living life as an adventure and living life experiencing the fullness of you.
Right.
Because you're supposed to be able to be in touch with your broken parts.
Right.
But especially as fucking alpha males are like, fuck off. I don't need to know about my feelings. I don't need to. And in reality, every decision you make, every decision any person makes boils down to 2 root feelings. And that is, it's either a decision from love or a decision from fear. So when you run back joy, happiness, excitement, all of that runs back to love. When you run back scarcity, lack, fear, abundant, not fear, but fear is the root cause, but you run back all those things that are around scarcity, it's all fear-based. So this is why, like, the news media right now controls people, because they're advertising from basis of fear.
And it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's their narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we can understand that, hey, before we make certain decisions, like if I would have paused Sunday night and I would have thought about, do I want to have a drink with these guys? If I would have made that decision from a place of love, the answer would have been no, because the love for my wife would have been more important than impressing those guys.
Sure.
But out of fear of not impressing them, I made the decision to have a couple of drinks and broke my integrity with my wife.
Right.
So, like, if you start tracing every decision back, or you make big decisions, like try and trace it back to its root feeling, you'll make the right decision every time.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's what God is. God is love, period.
Yep.
Everything everyone's pursuing is love.
Yep.
So it's a big fucking deal to understand that, and you can start filtering your life that way.
Without a doubt.
So then it becomes, okay, well then what would my life look like? What does my life look like now that I don't do everything I say? That's a great place to start, because you're forcing someone to look at the facts of where they're at. And that's very painful for most people to do.
It sucks.
It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it sucks,
especially if you're truthful with yourself.
Yeah.
Because no matter where you're at on the level that you see yourself, there's things in there that you're not doing just the way as good as you could, right?
Right.
And so then standing in the facts that you're in, you're saying, okay, well, where do I want to go? What do I want? What do I want next? Or what do I want out of my life? Where do I want to be in a year in my physical body and my money and inside of my relationship with my wife and kids? Where do I want to be? How do I define that? Well, then you start thinking to yourself, okay, this is what I could be. Right now I make X amount of dollars, but I know that what's impossible for me right now would be to double that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if doubling your income happens to be something you want to move towards, what would be the first step in moving that way? Because moving towards truth requires you to transform as an individual, as a person.
Yep.
It's going to change who you are.
Yep.
Like the Sean that is today and experiences the life you do today with your gym is a completely different Sean than when I met you. And
oh, yeah.
Dude,
without a doubt.
Back in the French Riviera days.
Without a doubt.
I mean, and then a different Sean that went through the breakup you did in your marriage. Completely different Sean there.
Yep.
Now you've transformed in the version you're at. And guess what? What's new becomes norm, and what's norm becomes numb. None of us were designed to sit right where we're at.
No.
And so there's going to be a point in time where the experience that you're having right now is not going to be enough for you, and that's okay. But we go back to the way we were taught by our parents and the church and everybody else. It's like, be grateful for what you have. Well, I think that statement is twisted a lot. And I think it's twisted by, we're supposed to be grateful for all that we are as a being, as a spiritual individual. That's what that means. Not be grateful for the material things you have.
Correct. No,
it's
I
be
agree
grateful
with that.
for all of who you are. And if you're not fully expressing all of who you are, which none of us are, because that's a state of like heaven, then you need to move, right? So when you get to a point where you've reached a worldly level that you're comfortable at, just know that you're going to have to step to the edge of the cliff again and face truth that you need to level up again.
Right.
Or you're going to get numb, start sedating, and life just doesn't start to make sense.
Well, and the numb and the sedating thing is real, but it's also, it's just like with the personal growth thing. Like, it doesn't stop. So people start thinking that it's all about materials and this, that, and the other, and it's not. It's just living the fullest, most complete, best life you can. And yes, as you level up and as you get better, and you're going to acquire more material things, but that's not the reason you're doing it. You're not doing it so you can have 10 houses or 5 cars. That's not why you're doing it.
Well, if you're doing it for those reasons, you end up like P. Diddy right now.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, he's chasing that. That was his whole why.
Right.
He had no depth to himself at all,
No.
and now he finds himself.
And it all crashes at some
Yes.
point. I don't give a shit how long you're riding the wave and how long you're on top. It always crashes at some fucking point. It always does. And look at Epstein. Look at the life he was living and all the shit that he was doing. And when it came crashing down, it came crashing down. And that's how it is. That's how it is.
You're gonna. There is no decision you're gonna make that you're not gonna pay a price for. Like, life demands it back from you. Period, and it will get it.
Well, energy, law of attraction.
Law of attraction.
I mean, it's, you put out negative energy. You do negative, whether you think you're doing something bad or not, if you're doing something negative and you think it's okay, you're still putting negative energy out there, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
It's gonna come back.
That's the way everything was set up.
Yes.
There's a polarity that God set up in the beginning. And that's why, if you go back, and whether you believe in God or not, if you operate this way creatively in your life, you will create shit, because this is just the law of God.
I am learning it. And I didn't mean to cut you up.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch base after you talk about, but I am learning that hard this year. Like, it's fucking eye opening, like crazy. But go ahead.
So you start being aware of that. But so what God did in the beginning is God comes in, and God was just over the darkness. He was over the deep. He was just there. God's always been, right? And even if you don't believe in God, if you follow these principles and follow me here in this conversation, you go start creating this way, you will create shit in your life. It's just the way it is. These are laws of the universe that don't change and don't fail.
It doesn't matter what you believe.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
God doesn't need your permission.
Exactly.
So what God does is come in and he starts separating. He starts separating heaven from earth, light from dark, water from land, air from this, and just starts separating all this stuff to create what became this box of creation with polarity, like good and evil. There's polarity on, and so
everything.
There's polarity in everything, and so God creates this box of polarity, starts separating everything. Well, if you want to raise the level of you in your life, that's the whole process we do. We start separating our lies from our truth.
Yep.
You've got to separate your light from your dark. And here's the interesting thing. Like, when God separated the light from the dark in the Bible in the beginning of Genesis, you go back and read it, he calls the light good, but never calls the dark bad.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Because he was in the dark in the beginning.
Right.
So when you start separating your lies from your truths, God is in your lies. Yeah. There's some darkness you're going to have to go into and resolve in yourself in order to extract that power from God out of it.
Yeah.
Right. So when we start creating anything, this is the place we start. We start by separating the light from the dark and standing in your lies, especially in personal development.
Oh, without a doubt. You have to be able to. And you, if you don't do it, if you don't stand in your darkness, if you don't sit there and separate your lies from your truth, there's nothing to gain. Like, you have to be able to acknowledge your lies, to see what you were doing wrong, to know, okay, we're not going into the darkness again. So, like, people think that all the bad shit that they did wasn't useful, but there's a lot of use in it.
Oh,
like,
my God. There's a ton of wisdom in it.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. And what it is that the understanding is getting yourself into the mindset that you are a victim unless you adopt this mindset. It's like, what do you mean? Well, you're a victim unless you adopt the mindset of that I am in control of everything in my world.
Yep.
Responsible for, I should say. I'm responsible for everything in my world. Well, what about if your wife attacks you and just kind of downgrades you and this, that? Yep, I'm responsible. All the criticism I get from my wife, I'm responsible for that. Well, it's like, no, you can't blame yourself for everything. Like when my grandson got murdered, and when I was raising the daughter, my oldest daughter at the time, I was not a great father. I was 24 years old trying to figure out how to be a father. And in your early 20s, if you're not grounded on yourself, then it's a shit show.
Right.
So fast forward 20 years and my wife meets this guy who she shouldn't, my daughter meets this guy who she shouldn't be with. She chooses him because he's kind of similar to how I was when she knew me as a dad.
Yeah.
And then he does what he does in this whole thing. But if I don't adopt the fact that I'm responsible for everything in my life, then I'm depending on somebody else to be the solution.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you understand that you're responsible for everything in your life and you take that responsibility on and you're willing to face it, well, then you all of a sudden become the solution to your own problems.
Yeah, that's empowerment. You can do anything.
You can do anything because I own my shit. Give me my shit. Give me my licks. I'll take my licks.
Right.
I'll learn from it, and I'm going to go this way next time.
Exactly.
That's what the whole process is about.
And that's one of the things that I learned that I think people downplay a lot is, so it's an energy thing. So if you are putting out that energy and you're standing in that energy of abundance and betterment and truth and all that, like it comes. Like it's like magnetism. Mm-hmm. So with the polarity you were talking about, the energy you're putting out is magnetized to all this good and bad shit that's going on in the universe.
And you have to become the person to receive that abundance.
Exactly. And people don't realize, like, it's, and I remember when I first started reading, I read about it and I was like,
that's some hocus pocus bullshit.
Like, I don't know. That's kind of out there. And then I started reading it more and more, and I'm like, how come all these fucking ultra successful people are saying the same thing? Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kind of put some stock into this. I'm gonna start practicing some of this shit because it can't hurt. Mm-mm. And then you start seeing these little things happening, and you start seeing these things coming in your life. So then you go into it deeper. And then more comes, and then you go to it, and then eventually you're like, "Holy fuck, this is real! Like this is like real shit."
And that's the awakening you were just talking about. You're experiencing right now.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, this whole mindset thing is very real. And it is, and it's only as real as you're committed to believing.
Correct. With your level of belief in it, and your level of the intensity of the energy you're putting out there is going to be correlated to what you get back.
Well, and that's what one of the guys this morning in one of my groups that I lead, he had been avoiding for the last few weeks the pain that's around his marriage and his relationship with his daughter right now. And he's a retired military guy, just retired, still very young, but he's got some demons that he's fighting, and he's just hadn't wanted to face them. Mm-hmm. Some situations he's created in his marriage. Well, we finally get a chance to get him on a hot seat and start asking him certain questions about, hey, what's the facts of your marriage right now? And he's like, well, I'm like, well, okay, well, let's start with this. How often are you having sex with your wife? Oh, like once every 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, so we've got some issue there. Why doesn't your wife trust you? Well, what do you mean? Well, if she's not pursuing you, she doesn't trust you. Oh, well, you're right, because I don't do what I say most of the time. And that brings us to the topic of what we're talking about here. Right? It's the energy that people feel by how you let yourself be. So if you let yourself be comfortable with being where you're at and you get numb, you're just lying to yourself, and you're going to portray this energy to the world. And every room you walk into may not consciously be able to say it, but there's going to be something I don't trust about that dude. Because you don't trust yourself.
Right. It's energy.
Yeah.
It's energy you're putting off. Like imagine if we're talking about, if you imagine the self-confidence and the security and the self-empowerment that you have, knowing that you're going to do everything you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
What you start doing there is you start being real careful about what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And you start being real careful about when you say you're going to do it.
But then when you build momentum, because now in your own mind, you stop lying to yourself and you're like, oh, I'm that guy. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy that does the shit that he's going to say he's going to do. Mm-hmm. That's a level of like confidence and security that you can't recreate.
Well, and that's why it goes back to like what Jesus said in the Bible too, in John, is that you will know them by their fruit, right? That's one of the things they said. So when we start guiding men down this road of truth, what we start with most of the time is a physical body, because that's the quickest place to see truth start to happen. And it's the easiest place for me as a guide for those guys to see that they're full of shit. They're not doing anything they told. Because if you were sweating 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week, and we're a month and a half into this thing, you would have lost a couple of pounds by now.
Well, I also feel like it's kind of the easiest thing to do, because no matter where you are, you can do it.
It's the easiest way to build your integrity.
Yeah, like you can go outside and walk around a neighborhood for X amount of time. You can do push-ups at your house. and this may seem like trivial shit, but when you're starting out, being honest to yourself, trying to build your integrity, all that stuff, like the small shit counts. Like we're going from nothing to something. So like the small shit matters. And then you're going to start feeling better about yourself. So then you're going to want to do more. You're not just going to want to go walk outside or go do push-ups. You're going to want to go to the gym. And you're going to want to really sweat. You're going to want to start doing shit.
That's why it's important not to set the thing so big. Like, I'm going to be shredded in 90 days.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
You can't set that because you as the you are now doesn't know what that feels like if you've never been there.
And you don't have the discipline to do it. So
right, because you don't know how it feels, you definitely don't have the discipline to do it. Now you can say, I'm going to move towards being shredded in 90 days.
Right.
What does that look like? Well, you got to stop fucking drinking, fix your fucking eating, and get to fucking work in the gym.
Yeah.
Right? Like basic stuff. And here's what I tell a lot of people too, and they don't understand. Like when you make a commitment like that physically, like the way the world is now, you can no longer say, well, I don't know what to do first. Because you've got fucking YouTube, social media. You can put a workout play. You got myfitnesspal.com.
Yeah, dude, there's no reason.
Do not even tell me if you're a beginner and trying to get yourself into shape, you don't know the first thing to do. Like that, there's your lie right there. Yep. That's what's holding you prisoner.
Yep.
But it gets a little more complex when you point it at marriage or at business.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, you point at your marriage. Well, my wife doesn't trust me. Well, what's the first thing you can do? Well, do you have a honey-do list? Yeah. Well, how about just start doing some shit off the honey-do list?
Right.
Like it's still little things, you know? And you still, I don't care what situation any person's in, if we talk about marriage or money or in your body or even your relationship with God, you absolutely know one thing you can do to turn the dial.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
You're
saying you know you're lying.
You're fucking lying.
Yeah,
you're saying I've given up. Now, that's okay too, because that's a truth.
Right.
Being able
But you have to acknowledge that's what you're doing. You have to acknowledge, okay, I'm full of shit.
Yeah,
right?
because then you can have someone, a mentor or guide, say, hey, you know what? You're full of shit, but here's the first thing you do, X, Y, or Z. You know, and so, like you said, once you start building momentum, it's important to approach truth from a place of from a place of habit. Like truth has to become a habit.
Absolutely.
Because right now, for most people, lying is a habit.
Yeah, truth is definitely not a habit.
No, that's why you got filters all over social media. Like, why not just take a picture of yourself the way you fucking look?
Dude,
you know what I mean?
I can tell you right now, from a person that went from one extreme to the other in terms of lying and telling the truth. There is nothing when Taylor and I went through, it wasn't even really a thing. But I would always tell her, I'm like, look, because look, owning a gym, being in the fitness industry, I come across a lot of people. I have a lot of people that message me, especially women. Like, it's just part of what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I tell her, I'm like, look, my phone's unlocked. You can go through I'm like, I have nothing to hide. You can go through my phone whenever the hell
Pick it up whenever you want.
And she's like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I'm not saying you do. I'm telling you, my phone's unlocked, that I'm just putting it out there. I have nothing to hide. You can go through that whole thing, you know? So whenever I would have...
massive, Sean.
Right. So whenever I had a long string of messages from a girl or somebody like that, I wouldn't delete them. Like, I'd leave them in there. You know? I'm like, you can go take my phone. Go ahead. Like, you can go. I don't give a shit. I don't have to worry. I don't have any concern because I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but I also know that standing in my truth, I'm like, look, here it is. Well, there's no hiding anything. And that is such a comforting for me. I'm sure, I know it is for her, but speaking for me, that is such a comforting feeling and it's just easy. And
well, I'll tell you what it does. That sort of openness and truth, if every man could practice being open with his phone with his wife, that man's standing in truth, or his girlfriend, he's standing in truth with that female. And the reason I say that is because that level of openness, when you trace it back, does that openness come from actions of love or actions of fear? Because I'll tell you this, I've had relationships where I was dating girls and I was lying to them, and I didn't want them getting in my phone.
No, shit, no.
That is an action of fear. I was scared of them getting into my phone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Now with my wife, same thing. Look, I'm not scared of giving her my phone at all.
Not at all.
Here's my phone. Take it. Look through it. You know, that's an action. So that is an action of love, and she feels that love through that act.
Right.
Well, it's the same way in business.
Absolutely.
Like if you have your integrity at the highest level inside of whatever business you're living, your clients are going to feel, they're not going to feel fear of you. They're going to love being around you. They're going to love being in your environment. They're going to love being a part of what you're creating.
Well, right. That's what I was going to say. They're going to love being a part of what you have because they're not worried about, well, is this going to work out? Like, is this going to make it? Is this, because it's transparent, it's honest, it's real.
Yeah.
There's nothing shady going on. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's obvious because of the energy and what the business is doing and all that. So no, it just brings more people to you.
And it brings more people to you, and it all goes back to truth and love.
Yep.
Truth is always on the side of love. On the side of fear is always lies, because people only lie out of fear.
Sure.
That's it. It's the only
Absolutely.
reason.
Yeah.
Like me last Sunday, I was scared to tell my wife.
Exactly.
Right? Fear.
Right. Scared of what the response is going to be.
Right. But that shows you like how deep rooted it is in most people.
Yeah.
Right. If fear is rooted at your core,
yep.
And that's okay as long as you're aware of it and you understand it. Right. And you can acknowledge it in the moment. It's in the moment that it counts.
Right.
And the ability to be able to take a pause and, okay, is what I'm doing right now a fear or a love? Is it based in fear or love? This decision I'm about to make. Being able to make that from a place of love is big.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be truthful.
So it's just so really ultimately it's being cognizant.
Just being aware.
It's being aware of this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. This is what I need to do. This is what I should do. But this is what I'm not doing. This is what I need to start doing. It's just it's like you said. It's separating everything.
Well, and that's the only reason the news media can lead and can guide people and can control people the way it does is because people are asleep to the fact that they can choose. You can either choose fear or love. Those are really at your core.
You don't have to listen to that shit.
No. Well, you can even listen to it and laugh at it.
Right.
These motherfuckers think I'm going to fall for that. God, they are so stupid.
Right.
But you've got to get to a place where you understand that your truth is going to land on love. And so if you can just trace it back to love, then the rest of it falls into place.
Well, and that's the political thing. And I've been commenting more on people's stuff when I read certain things is like, when either the Republicans go after the Democrats or the Democrats go after the Republicans, I'm like, look, this is what they want. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm like, we talked about it previously. I'm like, we all want the same thing. You don't hate me because you don't even know me. Mm-hmm. Like if we met somewhere in a restaurant or some shit, and we struck up a conversation, we'd probably be fine. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is not this is not a, oh, I'm gonna hate this group or I'm gonna hate that group. That's not what this is.
Well, and here's the thing. When you understand that mankind was created as a diverse group of beings, right? So it says in the Bible that some people are fingers, some people are noses of the body, some people are ears and eyes. Like you're not all supposed to be hands.
Correct.
We weren't created all to be hands. So there's divinity, there's a higher power, higher source of us inside of our diversity. And if you approach it that way, then it's okay for that person to have that belief for me because it's not mine and they're not moving me off of mine. So if they want to go down that path with that belief, see you later. Have a good time. I'm over here, and I'm not trying to change you to make you believe anything.
Right. Because you don't have to believe what I believe.
You don't have to. You don't have to experience God the way I do.
Correct.
That's why when I go to churches and they're a little thrown off by how I approach God, it's because they've been sold into a lie that God only fits in their box.
That's it. Right. Well, and we talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it in a previous episode or just you and I talking about it, but whether you believe in God or not, in some of these books, like the book we were talking about, Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Yeah.
He talks about the source.
Y'all have not read that. You
awesome.
need to get that
awesome book. Yeah. But he talks about the source.
Yeah.
He's like, I believe in God. You may not believe in God, but you believe in that there's a source.
Something bigger than you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing is people get offended when they're like, oh, I don't believe in God. Well, okay. Well, whatever your source is.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like people automatically want to go to the divided part. I'm like, no, I don't care if you don't believe in God.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, look, it's like this. We're all trying to give our best description of an experience with something that is so much bigger than us, we can't wrap our minds around.
Exactly.
So even Jesus, when Jesus was here, Jesus as the man, Jesus, I believe, was God's son, and God was in Jesus. I believe that, but I also believe Jesus was fully man.
Yeah.
And so being fully man, they're like, well, Jesus, you're always teaching in parables. Jesus was trying to explain to a mortal this high level understanding of a God.
that only God can understand.
Right. And he's a man, and he's
Right.
like so torn with all this shit. He's trying to
Right.
explain to us, and he's like, I've been telling y'all, and y'all still don't get it.
Right.
Like he just can't get it out, right? And so that's kind of what it's like. It's like, yeah, there's a higher truth, and if you submit to what that is, and that higher truth has your higher good in mind, and you aim yourself at that higher good, even if you don't make it there, the journey on the way there is going to transform who you are.
Right. Right. I mean, my biggest thing that I went through was, and I didn't realize it because I everything that I talk about now, everything that we talk about, I mean, when I was at my lowest, and even before then, I downplayed the importance of all that. Mm-hmm. But then when you start experiencing and living in it and practicing all these things, you realize how critical and how important it is. So to tell somebody, look, you need to do the shit you're going to say you're going to do. 99% of people are going to be like, yeah, no, I get it. Mm-hmm. But it's like a fleeting thought. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, if you live in this, if you start only doing what you say you're going to do, like, your life's going to start to change. All these different aspects of your life are going to change. If you start, instead of saying, I know I need to do this, if you just start doing it, mm-hmm. everything's going to change, like everything.
And that's the greatest weakness in society right now. This is what you and I talked about at the restaurant a couple of weeks ago. This right here, that the greatest weakness in society is that most men lead with their words and not with their actions.
Correct.
Because that's how most men have been taught.
Well, look at the relationship
here's
dynamic.
Here's the deal. Yeah, I want to get this out. So most men lead with their actions, or lead with their words and not by their actions, when words are the least reliable purveyor of truth.
The least important.
The least reliable purveyor of truth.
Yep.
Actions purvey truth.
Correct.
Like, you can't deny the fruit of an action.
Nope.
You go pull a trigger and kill somebody, you absolutely kill that person.
Right.
You know, now you can say, hey, I didn't kill that person. If nobody saw it and it's just your words, well, what do? Well, it's words. Words don't purvey truth all the time, especially coming from broken humans.
Correct.
But actions, they always purvey truth.
Yep.
Always. That's why it's so important to lead from your actions. You're never going to lead someone from what you don't live.
No.
Right? And so that's why pastors and churches lose their value with modern society, because you have pastors up there overweight telling you to be good stewards with your money and give the church money.
Or giving relationship advice.
Or giving relationship advice. Not even relationship.
They're not relationships.
Yeah. So they're telling us to steward things, and the greatest gift any of us have been given is these bodies that we have, because you can't enjoy anything else in life if you're not physically able to enjoy it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So then we have to steward these bodies. Well, we look at these guys as, we look up to them as examples. Are they really examples of the embodiment of God or Christ in this world? Most aren't. And that's uncomfortable for those guys to hear. Even more uncomfortable for a person who goes to church like me to say.
Right.
But it's true.
It's true.
So,
well, regardless.
Yeah. So then what has to happen? Some people have to step up and say, you know what? I'm going to not just listen to the words on Sunday, and I'm not just going to read them, and I'm not just going to repeat them. How about I start fucking living them?
Yeah.
And the reason most people don't is because that's a scary invitation. Because just like Jesus said, you start living truth, you're going to start shaving things out of your world.
Sure.
Like, I've lost a lot of friends living and believing the way I believe now, who I thought were friends and really were, but just weren't ready to get into the conversation I'm in now with my life.
Right.
And so what starts happening is people and things start falling off. Like, my identity as, I built houses forever in New Orleans. I don't build houses anymore because God's led me in a different direction. And it's like, okay, well, you let go of a really good, profitable business to go do this. Yeah, I did, because I felt called to go do that.
Right.
Right. But you start living by this internal voice and calling and being true to it. And not only will your life go on the greatest adventure, but you will end up in a place of abundance that you could never imagine. And that's what I wish I could get most men to see.
Right. And so my biggest thing, which what I try to beat in people's heads, and I wish they would realize, especially right now with everything going on in society, of like people being scared and people feeling weak and not being able to follow through with things or feel like they're not in control in their life. The thing that I wish I could get people to understand is that it doesn't matter what's going on. Like, you can change your life. You can have all this shit that you want in your life, but it starts with you.
Internal.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like it is you.
Mm-hmm. And how you perceive, and yes.
What you do, what you don't do, the energy you put out there, the mindset you have, like it's all you. Like people think if another president is elected, if a different president is elected, it's going to solve their problems. That's the biggest load of bullshit that there is.
And look,
that is the biggest load of bullshit that there is.
If they can get you to believe that, you're fucking lost.
Yeah.
You're theirs.
Right.
They own you then
right.
at that point.
Because they're the solution. You're not the solution.
No,
they're the solution.
You're not free. Don't even think you're free.
No.
If you believe in that mindset, you're not a free person.
Right.
Because freedom comes at a cost. And it's the cost of moving away from the crowd, the herd, right? Like saying, hey, you guys go ahead and operate that way. You can believe this president's going to change your life, but I'm going to keep doing this in business because I'm in control of myself.
Yeah.
And you may crash and burn, but you're not over there being led to sleep.
Yep.
Right.
Well, so it's the same thing with anything, even in relationships. Oh, well, cheating's the norm nowadays, and nobody's loyal, and nobody's faithful, and men aren't men, and the relationship dynamics fucked up, and that may all be a thing, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get wrapped up in that. Like, I know what I want my relationship to be. I know what I believe. I know what the traditional relationship roles and the dynamic that I believe a relationship would have. I don't give a shit what the norm is. I don't give a shit what's tolerated now.
Right. Well, you've learned a really big concept inside of personal development, which is you become the standard for yourself.
Yeah,
there is no external comparison. None.
Well, and the thing I've realized is no one's gonna have the same standard for myself and my life that I'm gonna have. Like no one's gonna want more from me than I want.
Yeah, well, that and yeah, you're right. Because here's the thing: like when you start going down the path of, I want to create this life that I've always known I could live, but I don't know how to get there. Well, the first thing that I've found really, really easy to do is look at someone who has a particular life that you want, and don't do what they did. Figure out what they think, how they think. Because it's the mindset and the stories they tell themselves,
right?
And them being truthful with those stories to themselves, and then doing what they hear that actually moves them down the road that they're going on.
Right. Because the journey's not cookie cutter. It's not the same for everybody.
No.
How you walk down that path is not the same.
Absolutely not. That's why you can take Bill Belichick's playbook and you can go give it to another team. But if Bill Belichick's not calling the plays with his energy and who he is, well, the plays are going to suck ass, right? It's the same thing. You can have guides and outlines to get you moving, but at some point you're going to have to take the ownership and responsibility that I am in full control of my life. I am the problem, and therefore I'm the solution.
Absolutely.
And once you take that, life gets a whole lot more fun. Because then you can actually create shit that you feel inside you're called to create.
You can create whatever you want.
The marriage, the money,
it's limitless.
It's limitless. Yeah. The body, and there's no
business.
The business. There's no end to it, and that's the whole point. Is that if you look around, like a lot of how I want validation in my beliefs now, because now that I'm in this man space doing what I'm doing, I get to go to a bunch of different churches. To kind of give this kind of understanding to the leaders of the church, because they're not impacting their congregations. They're looking for ways to impact them. On the outside, from Dominion Warrior and Warrior, the things we do, we're impacting 10, 15,000 transformational experiences every year. And it's only growing. And it's quadrupling and doubling as you project it down the line. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And part of what we're doing is simply empowering man to be what he always was. Because these churches have just taken that power from the men. Like God only fits in this box. You can only grow to this point, and you should be happy with what you have. So one of the ways I filter that for myself is learning to look at nature, right? So it's like, okay, I'm supposed to get to a certain point and just chill and retire. I can do that if I want. You can make that choice. You've got full agency over yourself to make that choice. Right. Or I can look at, okay, I'm never supposed to retire. I'm supposed to just continue to grow. Not financially. I'm not just meaning financial. I mean, grow as a person, which obviously, grow as a human, as a being in this life. I'm supposed to continually grow. Well, if you look at nature, the only time anything stops growing is when it dies.
It's true.
Trees, grass, birds, plants, animals.
That's a great analogy.
Because, dude, there's nothing in nature that says I've grown tall enough, so I'm not growing any taller or wider, or I've grown enough leaves, I'm not growing any more leaves.
Right.
Or I've got enough feathers, I'm not going to. No. Nature grows until it dies, and that's what we're supposed to do as people.
We're part of nature.
We are nature.
Right.
And that's where the whole like midlife crisis comes in. Like guys get to be 50 years old, 45, 50 years old. It's actually the midlife crisis thing is happening younger now.
Yeah.
Because people's understanding, like what you're getting exposed to as a 10, 11, 12, 15-year-old on social media and inside of everything that's in the palm of your hand is advancing people's thought process. And they're seeing it advance the mind in a way that now it's crazy and sick to even think about, but girls are starting puberty at a younger age because of what they're being exposed to.
Well, but it shows the power of your mind.
That is the power of your mind.
That shows the power.
That is
and people don't understand that if you can unlock this power of your mind and embrace it, like it's limitless.
It's limitless.
Like you don't understand how much it can fucking affect your life. Like it's.
But what you have to understand it is this, Sean. The mind is simply a tool of creation. It's all it is. It's got to be guided by something deeper.
Right.
Like this is just a tool. That's all it is. And that's a massive supercomputer, but it's just a tool. So, okay, well, what is it guided by? Well, it's guided by your soul or your heart, the heart of man, the soul. Well, what is the soul guided by? Well, the higher soul or higher source. For me, God. It's guided by God. Well, how do I talk to God? Well, you got to go sit quietly and you got to listen to yourself.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Get quiet. How long can you sit quiet? How long can you wait? If you get up 30 minutes early tomorrow morning, can you sit quiet in the corner without falling back to sleep and just listen for something inside of you to guide you?
Yep. I mean, and that's why I like to chime in on these things. And I like to tell people my personal experiences, because some people think, if you don't have a real life example, they think it's bullshit. But I got more when I was going through my divorce. I was going to sit in church before it closed 2 times a week, Tuesday and Thursday, by myself. The lights were out. It was dark. The sun was going down. I sat in the first pew in the church for as long as I felt like I needed to. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I asked God for things. Sometimes I just listened. And I got more out of going there and sitting in silence in the presence of God than I did going to church on Sunday. For however many years I've gone to church on Sunday.
You got more healing in those moments at a soul level than you ever got in any church experience.
Unquestionably.
And you can do this.
Unquestionably.
And people don't realize you can do the same thing in your house. You can go sit in the corner.
You don't have to be in church.
No, you don't have to be in church. You don't even have to go to church.
I wanted to go to church because I was so broken at the time. I wanted to feel like I
get it.
I literally wanted to put myself there.
And that's probably smart in that moment, right?
And at that time, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Now, if I need to do that, I don't have to go to church.
No.
I don't have to go to church to do that.
No, and all of that becomes is like the reason personal integrity, and we started off the talk with, stop lying, and do the things you say you're going to do, stop lying to yourself, is so important, because every answer you ever need to have in life is already inside of you.
Yeah.
Your soul knows. And it's like, people are like, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, if you're driving down the street and there's a car accident and somebody's life bleeding out in front of you, you're going to instantly jump into action and know what to do, right? Like, your soul, and then you see this happen, and then the news lady goes over to the guy, how did you save his life? And the guy's like, I don't know, I just did it, I just reacted. I don't know, I've never been trained in life-saving techniques, but I just reacted. It's because your soul knows.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain things that your soul knows for your purpose, which is even deeper, which is like, okay, we're all created for a specific purpose.
Yep.
And we've talked about it before, but it's like, okay, I heard it best described by Steve Harvey. And he basically says, if you're going to operate in purpose, like what you were built for is you, if you're going to operate from that place intently, if it was pie making, and you're going to be the best pie maker in the world because you're operating in your purpose.
Correct.
You're going to make more money baking pies than you would going to work on the New York Stock Exchange, because your purpose is pies.
Correct.
So for a man or woman, and I say men because that's the group I work with, but for a man, the understanding of purpose and the understanding that you are in control of your life and you've got all the answers for your life inside of you right now waiting for you to find them. And all you have to do is start understanding the discipline of sitting quiet and listening, and then doing what you hear, life starts to work.
Yep. Well, it goes back to the old thing you say, do what you love. But and that's so much more powerful than people realize, because when you do follow what you love and you put everything into what you love, like that's your purpose. And that may change. Like, you know, you were doing construction for a while and then that led you to another purpose.
Yeah.
And that, which I feel is the path that brings you closer to your ultimate purpose. Like it's going to change, you know, the road's going to curve.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
I have a friend that wants so much more for his life. And he's bouncing around from like little job to little job to little job. And I'm like, dude, until you start doing what you love doing, until you pursue that, and it's going to be hard and it's not going to be lucrative at first, like, but until you do that, your life's never going to be what you want it to be. You're never going to get that fulfillment that you're looking for because you're pursuing all these other things to because you think you could make money or support your family doing it. When the way you can support your family the most, maybe not the quickest, but the most is by doing what you love and making that a business.
And you'll never retire from that when you find it.
No, you won't want to.
Because it's what you were placed here to do.
I mean, literally, we just had the expansion of the gym. I've been open for 8 years, and I didn't want to pay someone to do it. I wanted to go do it myself. Like, I wanted to get out there and do it because seeing what I can offer people, seeing that grow, I mean, that's what I feel like my purpose was to motivate people, show people the way, and empower them to be the best that they can absolutely be.
Give them the tools.
Right.
Yeah. Lay it out.
Right. Now, if you said, okay, well, what do you do? Well, I own a gym. I mean, to some people, that's like foreign, but I'm like, no, I'm like, this is more than a gym. Like, this isn't just a gym. This is a mindset. This is like a code of conduct. It's a set of values and ideals. I just found a way to channel it and do it. The self-empowerment and the personal development through the gym because that's part of it. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't do everything and we talked about that before. You can't do some of it and not other parts. It's either going to work or it's like an engine can't function with certain pieces. You can't have some pieces, but not all the pieces. You don't get a functioning engine.
You can't improve the motor without getting better tires, right? Like all of it goes together.
It all goes together. So if you can't do and I like to push the health and fitness aspect because in my mind it's the easiest.
Yeah.
Like some people, you can go to the gym and you can move and it doesn't really take a lot of thought. You tell somebody, how do I talk to my husband or how do I fix my marriage with my wife? And they just get lost. I feel like that people need more help with that. But with the personal and health aspect, it's like getting moving's easy. You know, like I mean, you can do it anywhere.
You can do it anywhere. And it's the quickest way to build your internal integrity. Like to show yourself that, hey, I can do what I say I'm going to do.
Well, and so that goes back to what I tell people, like if you can get uncomfortable at the gym, it trickles out into other things. So if you can get used to being better in one aspect, well, you're developing the tools to be better in other aspects. Like it's not like, okay, if I can do the uncomfortable things and better myself in the gym, I don't know how to do the uncomfortable things and better myself like at home. Yeah, you do. You know how to do it. You have the self-discipline to do the uncomfortable shit.
Absolutely, you do.
So,
and then it just becomes a practice of finding the uncomfortable shit in your life to go stand in, right? Because I mean, knowing that you can do it in a gym like Valhalla, and you can not only like grow and be in the environment where it's super hard with a lot of alpha males and females around, but you can get in that environment and thrive. The empowerment that gives a person who's never been in the fitness game. Like, can you imagine being someone who just kind of worked out at Planet Fitness for a few times in their life, coming to Valhalla? Like, I've thought about this, like coming to Valhalla and like looking at the dudes first, going, holy shit. And then looking at the girls and then you're like, holy shit.
Right.
Then you meet the gym owner and it's like this big overwhelming experience. But then they come in and they're giving it their all, whatever level it is for them. Nobody's judging them in the gym.
No.
Is they're judging the fact whether or not, hey, you're going to put some effort in here?
Right. That's what they're judging. I mean? They're judging, are you here because you want to be here because you're serious? Or you just here, for fun? Yeah.
If you're here for funsies, you're going to have trouble. Right.
Exactly.
But if you're here to be serious, then you're going to build that integrity. That's why it's such a great place. It's why I'm drawn to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, man. I've said it earlier. There's no greater adventure in your life than truth. But I have guys tell me all the time, like, well, man, I don't know how do I, it sounds good, but how do I start hunting that in my life? Like, what do I do? Well, it starts by, I usually tell those guys, well, if you don't know where to start looking, first of all, you're a fucking liar. You're lying. And that usually triggers them. I'm not a fucking liar. I don't fuck. What are you talking?
Right.
Who the fuck are you?
Right.
And of course, those are the biggest liars.
Right.
Because they don't even recognize that they're lying to themselves.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you're lying to the world, asshole. I'm just saying that you're lying to yourself. Yes.
Right.
But if you want to know where to start, the easiest place to start is leaning into and thinking about and writing down the 2 or 3 hardest facts of your body. Think about and write down the 2 or 3 hardest facts, not your truth or your feelings.
Right.
What
We
are the
talked about
facts?
that. Right.
Right. So if you can take yourself and strip down naked in front of the mirror, remove all feelings and all ego, and just, what do you see? I'm a little out of shape right now. Okay, well, good. There's some truth.
Right.
Well, so is that working for you? No, it's not working. I want to look better than that. Okay, well, cool. So what would be the first thing you could do to start losing some of that? Like, if you will go stand in your hard truth inside of your body or your marriage or your money and get real with it and run towards it, the hard truth, the truth is laying in there. It's laying in those hard facts. And it's being able to stand in those, like you're talking about, in the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be uncomfortable anymore. We got fucking air conditioner.
Absolutely
We got,
not.
do you realize in the palm of our hands, we have now more information at our fingertips than the president of the United States had in 1989?
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's the year I graduated high school. But that stat was brought up by some of the SpaceX people that we do work with. And the guy's like, dude, do you believe that? Like, you can find out more on the palm of your hand and your phone. A 10-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old kid can find out more in the palm of their hand than the president of the United States could find out. So knowing that, it's like, don't tell me you don't know what to do.
No, here's the thing. Everyone has something about their life, that themselves or their life, that they don't like. So that's it right there. Mm-hmm. Okay, what don't you like?
Mm-hmm. What isn't working for you?
Right. What do you want to be better? Okay, well, if you want it to be better, that means it's not where you want it to be, which means there's a problem. So there you go.
Yeah.
What's the problem? What's going on? Why isn't this happening? I mean, anyone that says I don't know what the problem is or I can't figure it out is it's bullshit.
Well, what's wild is, and you can do this with yourselves at home, guys, is that you put yourself through these paces here, that for your marriage right now, how's your marriage? Well, I mean, it's good. It's okay. Well, is it working for you? Yeah, I mean, it's, well, there's where you're lying right there. Like, if you go through a list of what's working and what's not working for you, with most people, they can't tell you what's not working.
Right.
They can tell you what's kind of working.
Right.
Because to tell you what's not working is, you got to get uncomfortable.
Well,
you got to get uncomfortable.
So I feel like hearing you say that, to me, it seems almost simpler. Like, okay, so how's your marriage? It's okay. Well, is that what you want? You want an okay marriage? Mm-hmm. Like, I want someone to ask me about my relationship or my marriage and be like, hey, how's your marriage? It's fucking awesome.
It's on fire right now.
So anything less than that, to me, means there's a problem.
Yeah. And guess what? I ain't happy with that. We're going to even make it better.
Right, exactly. So when you ask somebody, like, are you in shape? Like, yeah, I mean, I'm in shape. I'm in shape. All right, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, is that the response you want to give? Or do you want to be like, oh, no, I'm great where I'm at right now?
Well, and the other superpower, and that's a good point. The other superpower is, in truth, is that, and I can tell you this, from just like business negotiations that I just went through recently with exiting a business and selling it and these kind of things. If you're someone who's standing and living in truth, you are absolutely the most powerful man in the room.
Without a doubt.
Like, I don't care how big a guy is or what his degree says or how much money he has. If you are the most truthful, honest guy in that room, he'll wilt under your truth.
I talked to Taylor about that on the last episode we had. I don't know if I don't remember if I read it when I did the Wake Up Warrior Challenge or not, but I told her, I said, if you want to be the most powerful person in a room, like, you walk in to a room of people and everyone knows your shit. They know all your good, all your bad, because you've owned it. Like, you've put everything out there, so no one can talk about you because it's all out there. Mm-hmm. You've said everything there is to say.
You know who embodies that perfectly? If you go pull up the clip from 8 Mile with Eminem with his final rap battle with Papa Doc.
That's what I talked about at the head. Did you listen to the last episode?
No, I didn't.
All right, that's because I use that exact same.
Dude, that's perfect.
Example.
I'm all these things. Now, tell these people
right,
something
exactly.
they
don't know.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the example I use with her. It's like, if you can own your shit, No one has anything to say about it. So you walk in a room and like people are kind of talking about other people's dirty laundry, talking about this, but they can't say shit about you because it's there's no news flash to put out there. And Taylor said, she's like, it's funny that you say that because I heard a lot about you before we got together. She's like, but then when you went through your stuff and you put all your stuff out there, she's like, I haven't heard peep since then.
Well, that's why people are like, how do you talk about lying to your wife last Sunday? That's embarrassing. And you had a couple of drinks.
No, it's not.
Like, it's like, that ain't fucking.
No,
you know what that is? That's truth.
That's truth, yeah.
Yeah. And I lied in the moment. That's truth. Like, if you can own it that way, then what it becomes is less important to my wife because she's like, hey, at least he's aware and he's a guy who can recognize when he screws it up.
Yeah.
Where most guys will try and take that lie to the grave.
Well,
right?
but that's being a man. So that also solidifies you in that masculine role, in that role as the man, is you can own your shit. You can be honest. You're not going to lie. Like you're going to put it all out there.
And look, when you first have your experience with this deep level of truth, like this with yourself, it is the most liberating feeling you'll ever experience.
Oh, dude.
Like being able to openly talk about my first experience with Christ speaking into my life, for me, how it went, is the most, I'll tell it 100 times and it's still a liberating feeling because at the moment it happened to me, I was in my most broken, destroyed, weak shell of a man experience in my life. And what happened in that moment was I was given something in my mind. The way I hear God speak to me is not like a voice, somebody talking. It's more of just like an idea will hit me that I know is the thing, right? So the idea hit me to get up and leave. I'd been to AA 4 times at that point. And I talked about this last time.
Yeah.
The idea hit me to get up and go home and tell Dawn like I'm not going back. Well, there's no way I had that kind of certainty in me as the weak man that I was in that moment.
Right.
But when I went home and told Dawn that, and I sat down in my office, which is by my front door, and she walked back into the den with the baby, I sit down going, holy shit, this is what fucking being a man feels like.
Yeah.
Not that I told my wife what I was doing, that I owned my truth.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so like that's all it takes for guys like are saying, hey, man, what are they really talking about? Like, what's the point in all this? Like, that is it. It's realizing that there's a truth in you and there's a power in you that if you will just do the work of uncovering and be willing to allow it to take time to uncover itself to you, just move towards truth, your life blows up.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
Truth is love and love is abundance. You go back to love and fear. Fear is always lies and scarcity. Love is always abundance. That's why when the rich young landowner went to Jesus and said, look, I've kept all the commandments. I've done everything right. Like, how do I know that I'm going to have a spot with you in heaven? What do I need to do? I'll do it. And Jesus told him, well, go back and take everything you own and sell it and give it away to the poor and come follow me. He's not telling everybody to do that, but he knew that man's heart was, he loved his things more than he loved
money.
Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He loved his money and he wouldn't give it away.
Right.
So those kind of truths, man, when you can stand in them, your life just starts to work.
Well, and like I said, I can personally attest to that when you stop lying, when you start being real with yourself, because it has to start with yourself. And then when you're so comfortable being real with yourself and you embrace so much vulnerability that you can be real with other people, everything just changes. It just does.
Yeah. And look, here's the last few things I'll leave you with is that when you start operating and you commit to operating this way as a man, it's extremely freaking difficult.
Yeah.
Because the light of truth will expose all of your weakness to you. Like you'll start to see yourself for who you are in that moment for the first time from bringing this light of truth into your life. And for most men, that's normally disgusting. Like I was disgusted with myself 4 years ago as a man. I look back now and I'm like, fuck, I wouldn't hire that version of me to sweep my floors. Like I just wouldn't do it. That's a terrible human being, And it wasn't that I was a terrible human being, it's just I was covered up with so many lies.
Right. But like everything that I talk about, anything worth having, anything worth doing, anything worth becoming, you have to do the uncomfortable shit.
It's on the other side of something hard.
That's it.
Yeah. The life you want
that's a fact of life.
Is on the other side of something hard.
You're not getting away from it.
No, man.
So, book recommendation. Awesome book, super easy read, not a very long, thick read. It's called Unfuck Yourself, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Life by Gary John Bishop. I read a couple books by him. I think Chad said he read this book too.
I read that book. That's a good one.
Yeah, really, really good book. Kind of touches on everything that we talked about today about fixing all the shit in your life, getting real with yourself. So we'll post a link in the YouTube video. Y'all go ahead and check this out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like always, if you know somebody that can benefit from an episode, share it with them. We're all struggling now. We're all going through shit. That's why we're doing this show, is to help people. Self-empowerment, personal development,
Sean,
all
you
that
want to
stuff.
release a date?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. So I know last time we had chat and we talked about having like a what's it you talk about?
Yeah, so what we talked about doing is just bringing something to the members of Valhalla, only exclusive for the members of Valhalla, male and female, where we create what I do outside of this conversation of Valhalla. We create a real room where the people of Valhalla can come in. Doesn't cost you anything. You come in, we eat together, and we sit down and we talk like we're doing here, but we give guidance to leverage this talk forward in your life. And this is something that, could happen monthly, every other week. It could become a thing if it catches on. But it's a place to be able to come and get this mindset opened up for you and have people open these containers of thought for you so that you can fill it with what you want to believe and then get some leverage to go do some shit in your life.
And it as a resource for me or Chad, because we've obviously, Chad teaches this with his program with Dominion Warrior. I've been through it. I've been through a similar program. I've been through Wake Up Warrior. So it's resources. Chad and I are both resources, to help y'all and talk y'all through this. It's going to be November 16th that we're going to do it. We're going to do it in the back of Valhalla. I'm actually going to put a flyer out. We're going to do a post on social media, all that stuff when we get the details down, but we're going to have some food. So we'll all get together and eat. Probably, if the weather's nice, we're going to do like a little fire in the back of the gym, and I'll just kind of, it's going to be super laid back, super chill, super casual. We're all just going to sit back and just talk.
Yeah, we do. We do a frame. The frame of the conversation is really like of the real room is that, you come in, you sit down, we eat. After we eat or while we're eating, we sit down and we basically go around the room and do a check-in with everybody, 2 or 3 minutes. Hey, where you at? How are you? How you feeling? What you're struggling with? And it's your first opportunity to actually speak truth into the world, the truth of you. Like the ability to be able to be vulnerable and open yourself up. Yeah, I lied to my wife last week and I'm fucking struggling with that. Like to be able to do that in a room with people who are also going to do the same thing is super powerful, man.
Yep. No judgment, no nothing, because we've all been it. I've fucked up in thousands of different ways. Chad has too. I own my shit. He owns his shit. So there's literally nothing you're going to come to the group and talk about or say where it's going to, people are going to be taken aback or whatever, because and that's what it is. It's helping push that vulnerability, helping us own our shit and get on that path.
And then we'll bring a lesson in real quick. I'll be brief, but we'll bring a lesson in each week, a topic. And we'll talk around the topic. It's going to be relevant to you trying to for self-improvement for you. So we'll talk about the topic, and then we'll talk about how you leverage that topic in your life. And then what we like to start doing is, if you're going to come back, if we're going to do it every 2 weeks, we'll take some commitments from people. What are you committed to doing? Just speak it out loud. And then we'll come back and check in a couple of weeks with each other, like a little accountability thing. Did you do what you say you're going to do?
Yep. I'm all about it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Good to be here.